The presidency has raised alarm over an alleged plot to overthrow President Muhammadu Buhari. Special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Femi Adesina claims some religious and past political leaders are working with external forces to bring down the government. He said there is a plan to recruit leaders of some ethnic groups and politicians to pass a vote of no confidence on President Buhari and by that throw the land into further turmoil. The alarm comes less than 40 hours after a warning by the Department of State Service over alleged plans to overthrow the country and to throw the country into anarchy, I should say, on that. Tunde, your views on this?
Well, I'm not sure if it's part of the training for presidential spokespersons to use oblique references rather than come straight out with what they're saying. You are best qualified to comment on that. But for me, the general thrust of the message for me is cryptic. We need to know who these people are. Because you'll recall somebody like Omoyele Sowore, when he was accused of similar, he was arrested, he was charged. So who are these sacred cows that cannot be named, much less be apprehended, if indeed such a plot is in the offing? And while I completely agree that our democracy was fought for and died for, and therefore the ballot is sacrosanct, that also does not give any license for complacency. It's almost as if when you feel you have 4 years, you treat it like a tenured professorship, which you are also qualified to comment on. It's not a tenured position. You are supposed to do the work and not win an election and be seen to go to sleep, as it were.
Okay, I think we should try to put this in context. What is clear is that in recent times there have been persons, groups, social-cultural groups, political groups, commenting on what they consider to be the inefficiency, incompetence, the lack of productivity on the part of the Buhari government. And some of them have been raising a number of concerns. Some ask for restructuring, some ask for separation, or if you like, secession, which seems to be the extreme end of it. And some of the guilty parties in that regard have been socio-political and cultural groups across the country. Now, the government now says that there are persons who are saying that the government of President Muhammadu Buhari, validly elected, as you will say, should either be impeached or the president himself should be asked to resign. And in the last few days, we've seen the government trying to control the narrative. How? On Sunday, we had the Department of State Services, the DSS, State Security Services, issuing a statement through Peter Afunanya, who is the spokesperson at the moment of the DSS. And what was Dr. Afunanya saying? Dr. Afunanya was saying, basically, that there are religious and political leaders in Nigeria who are asking for military intervention, who are insisting that the government should be removed because the government has been ineffectual. And he made the point that the responsibility of the state is to prevent such attempts at destabilization. The Department of State Security did not disclose the names of either persons or groups who are allegedly involved in this regard. Now, shortly after the statement from the DSS, the Nigerian military, the defense headquarters, through his spokesperson, also issued a statement to pledge loyalty to the civilian order, to the rule of law, and to say that the constitutional order is supreme and that the Nigerian military will not be party to any attempt to displace the Buhari government. Okay? Now, I mean, that's what we expect the military to say. And the military was more or less, the service chief speaking through the defense headquarters, were saying that there is no plan for any coup. The third intervention that we have seen, piggybacking on the statement from the DSS and the defense headquarters, came from Femi Adesina, the spokesman of the president. And he also more or less repeated what the DSS said, to say that there are persons who are plotting to overthrow the government. And that the government is aware of this, and that the government will not allow this to happen. Fine, that's the context. In terms of reactions, we have seen a statement from the People's Democratic Party, the leading opposition party. We have seen a statement from Urobo People's Union. We We have seen a statement from a Yoruba group also. All of them saying that what the government is trying to do is to blackmail the people of Nigeria, is to make false accusations, is to raise false alarm, and is to give the impression that indeed there is an attempt by religious, cultural, social, and political leaders in Nigeria to overthrow the government. And they think that this is just pure blackmail because what Nigerians are asking for is not overthrow, it's not displacement, it's not a coup, that what they are asking for is restructuring. And that the government, in place must listen to the people. That's another leg of it. Okay, let's go a bit further down. Well, constitutionally, any attempt to overthrow a government validly, legitimately, legally elected amounts to treason. So the question we should ask here is that, is the Buhari government flying a kite? Because it has happened before in this country. The government flies a kite. It says, oh, people are trying to overthrow it. Some people have been holding conversations about the overthrow of government. And the next thing you see, as we saw under the Abacha government, is that people will be rounded up. They will be put through a kangaroo trial. They will be sent to jail. Some of them will be given death sentences. Some of them even on the basis of phone calls. So is the Buhari government, that's a critical question, preparing a ground to go after the opposition? Well, opposition may be a strong word. To go after people who express views about the government. So is this an indication of intolerance? Moving beyond intolerance to the level of repression. Because we could wake up tomorrow now, they've already put the narrative out there. Some people are trying to overthrow the government in collaboration with certain foreign elements and leaders of some secessionist groups. You could wake up tomorrow, they will pick up people. And they will be put through trial, and we'll be here dealing with, okay, the government pre-warned us on the basis of intelligence. If our people want to overthrow the government, no government will sit down, fold his arms, and allow itself to be overthrown. So that will be the argument. Now, so what is the next level of the analysis? The next level of the analysis is that everybody should be on a state of alert, red alert, to know that, look, it looks like this is a government that is ready to go for broke. You have to be careful. If you are not plotting a coup against the government, be careful. Be careful what you say on phone. We have been in this country previously whereby persons went to jail for years because of ordinary phone conversation. So you have to be careful. The government has already sent out a warning. Whether you think it's a false alarm, as the PDP spokespersons insist, or as other people say, other cultural groups say it is, just be on alert. Because if they pick you up tomorrow and they say you are promoting the coup, they can provide the evidence and maybe nothing more innocent than a phone conversation. And I've seen certain prominent persons, saying, oh, this government will collapse very soon. And you can see the target. Religious leaders, political leaders, leaders of, cultural groups who have been making statements. It looks like we're going to get to another stage in this battle to save Nigeria. The government says it wants to save Nigeria by insisting on its own sovereign authority over the people. The people say, well, they want Nigeria to move forward. We are likely to reach a tipping point very soon. But I think, we all just need to be careful. So whether this is a false alarm or not, well, government will always claim that they have the relevant intelligence. In fact, Femi Adesina spoke of unimpeachable evidence.
Yes,
note that phrase, unimpeachable evidence. So that's a very strong warning, and people just have to be, on their guards.
On their guards.
Yes.
Thank you so much for that in-depth on Dr. Abatia and Tundu. That's all on News Headline. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll have Michael Wilson join us. Give us updates of global business outlook. Please stay with us. All right, welcome back to the Morning Show right on the Rise News channel. Moving on to Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson joins us now from London. Michael, great to have you.
Good morning. Yeah. So I suppose really the overall view is this, that when markets struggle to go up a lot on good news, and it doesn't take too long before they roll over in the other way. And I think that's really what happened yesterday. That was behind the sell-off. Nothing particularly fundamental, just markets had maybe gone a little bit too far ahead, a bit of profit taking and so on. So therefore, Asia Pacific shares, with the two big markets, the Japan and China, on holiday still, most on holiday. Australian shares up a bit, Taiwan up about 1/3%, and the Hang Seng barely moved at all. So let's turn our attention to the United States. I know this is a favorite sort of source of discussion for us, the prospects of inflation, interest rate rises. Last night, Janet Yellen said that a small increase in interest rates might have to happen to keep a lid on the economy heating up and so on. She did actually pull back from those comments. She was giving this in a sort of web interview for a magazine called Atlantic. And I would also say it is worth remembering that she doesn't set interest rates, and the Treasury Secretary is a politician. The chairman of the Fed, as I understand it, is not a politician. He's a public servant. And Jay Powell, for it is he, did say, did he not, a few weeks ago, that he reminded people that 8 million Americans are still not in work, and the Fed would have to see considerable, as he put it, substantial further progress on its full employment goals before it started talking about any change in policy. And once you reflect on that and put Yellen's comments in context, you get to the same conclusion that the bond markets did. In other words, yields barely moved. She also pushed back on the taxation goals. She's feeling that a lot of countries, including Ireland, which is obviously next door to us, they're heading lower as far as corporate taxes are concerned. She feels as though this minimum 21% thing is a good idea because it levels the playing field. I suspect there'll be a lot of countries actually who regard themselves as friendly towards companies because of their low tax regimes, might have something to say about that, but that's a discussion for another time. Anyway, she is defending it, saying that it's pointless having a journey to the bottom, as it were, as far as corporate taxation is concerned. It does need to increase, and it needs to get economies going again. US trade gap widened again, a direct consequence, I think, really, of people getting $1,400 in their back pockets. Quite honestly, I mean, why wouldn't you spend it? So stimulus checks pouring in, and also the economy showing a considerable amount of improvement. So a lot of people actually wanting to buy, stuff from the rest of the world, basically. So their trade gap increased quite a bit. So just onto the US markets, then, just a very brief recap. It was a day of aversion, really, to tech stocks. Apple down 3%, Amazon down 2.2%, Alphabet, which owns Google, down 2%. Nasdaq's the worst day since the end of March, crossing the Atlantic. European stocks were down, FTSE about 1%, CAC 1%, DAX 2.5%. Facebook. Here's the thing. Now, here's a good thing for discussion for you. Facebook is going to announce whether or not it will allow Trump back on. Unlike Twitter, which banned him permanently, Facebook banned him for the foreseeable future. I think the word they used was indefinitely, which is not quite as strong as forever. Now, meanwhile, Trump, as you know, has launched his own communications, in inverted commas, website, which he says will publish content straight from his desk. And also, of course, people can retweet that or re-put that back on Twitter. Now, what will Twitter do about this? I suspect Twitter will do absolutely nothing. It did suffer very slightly from not having the deluge of Trump created content and all the follow-ups and all the rest of it. But this, I think, starts to ask very serious questions about who controls Facebook. Will they allow him back on again? What does it matter if they do? Do we have any say in this? No, we do not. Will you be looking at what he writes? You may. Will you be drawing your own conclusions? Yes, you probably will. Will they be sensible ones? Well, that, of course, is completely up to you. Jamie Dimon has ordered, I told you about this last week, people back to the office. He's no fan of Zoom. He's saying, actually, that banks who actually sent their staff out to meet prospective clients face-to-face stole business from JP Morgan. So he says if people are worried about commuting, well, stick it. In other words, people don't like commuting, he's saying, but so what? So they're going to have a sort of rotating scheme there. Pfizer, the figures on their vaccine boost, $6 billion in profits. COVID vaccination will give Pfizer, this company that started in Germany, actually, all those years ago, $26 billion in revenues in 2021. It will deliver 1.6 billion doses. You will have a discussion, no doubt, about whether companies ought to be making profit from pandemics. I'll leave that one open. EU manufacturing brighter, one of the bright spots amidst the gloom of this very, very slow vaccine rollout they've had, has been the resilience of the manufacturing sectors in Europe. We're going to learn a little bit more about those later this morning. But German manufacturing, relatively solid. The PMI slipping to 66.2, this kind of index that they have. Anything over 50 is good, anything below it isn't. So 66.2 is about median, but it retreated very, very slightly. Coming to the UK from the continent, and UK smaller stocks are getting a big boost from the brighter economic outlook. FTSE index of small cap stocks has gone up by 70% in 1 year. You would have liked to have got in there, wouldn't you? FTSE 10% below its 2018. Its 2018 peak. Of course, the FTSE 100 has a lot of overseas and international stocks in it, so it tends not to be a measure of what's going on in the UK. So when smaller stocks are doing quite well, you can take that as being quite a good indicator. US cash-rich households, they're going to start spending. They found that they have accumulated £100 billion, apparently, according to our finance minister, Rishi Sunak. Businesses 100 billion, households 140 billion. So they may go out shopping. And if they do, then that'll help the economy. UK manufacturing expanded its fastest in 27 years. But the big caution to draw across that is semiconductor shortage. It's likely, a lot of people are saying this will loosen, as it were, by the end of the year, but we're still going through a lot of that. And just because things look good in manufacturing, it means that prices being got for items manufactured are higher. That's a lot to do with shortages rather than people actually wanting to pay those prices. And finally, crude oil strengthening again on optimism in the US and Europe economies, hoping that will underpin demand. We're approaching $70 a barrel, ladies and gentlemen. Brent crude this morning up by 0.7% to just above $69 a barrel. That's the global view.
Okay, Michael, is it that the world economy has opened up again? We are seeing growth in the UK, we are seeing growth in America, but those interest rates are things to worry about. And secondly, is crude oil an indication that things are getting better?